If you want to learn more about effective management, head over to mattsingers.com and sign up for my free management training.
Welcome to the Mad Singers Management Podcast from madsingers.com, where entrepreneurs and business managers learn and share. If you like the show, don't forget to leave a review.
Hello, and welcome back to the Mad Singers Management Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Jessica Eastman Stewart. Welcome, Jessica.
Thanks. I'm so glad to be here.
I am super excited to have you here today because we're obviously going to touch on our favorite, well, at least my favorite topic in the world, which is around management.
Mine too.
You love talking about systems and processes and stuff like that. So I'm sure we'll have a fun time.
Yeah, exactly.
Just before we get started, though, there's people around the world who don't yet know who you are. So let's change that for at least a few people, and let's hear where you ended up, how you ended up where you are today, and what you're all about.
Sure. So I'm Jessica Eastman Stewart, and I co-founded a nonprofit, and then was one of those that organization's leaders for about 10 years. I'm now running my own small business where I coach leaders in their work, and I also create content to help anyone in the world manage their home and family life with more joy and ease. I am based in Oakland, California in the States, and I have 2 elementary school aged kiddos.
Perfect. That sounds good. And how long have you been addicted to management?
I first became a manager maybe in 2009, and it's basically been since then. I love being an intentional manager, talking about it with others, coaching others about it, writing blogs about it. It just, it's what I do for fun on the weekends.
That sounds like an amazing life. What do you call it? Anonymous management addicts or something? I don't know.
Yeah. We need a support group.
We need a group. So management and systems is, those two often tied together pretty well, right? So I'm a firm believer in not necessarily having hundreds of complicated processes, but really having a few processes that work extremely well for you to manage your team effectively. That's sort of my mindset, right? That you're much better having a few things that you do consistently that really makes a difference than trying to do a million things that doesn't happen on a regular basis. So what is your framework? Tell us a little bit more about some of the key systems you have and you use.
Yeah, I think systems can really help. I mean, management is much more than, a checklist or, some sort of just thing you can just follow and check off. But systems can really support great management as well. So one of the ideas that has really helped my team over the years is an idea that we have called Polish Week. And it's essentially a week where we take time, we do it twice a year, and we pause what we're doing and polish up our systems. So we often, in the US, we often try to do this during kind of slower times. And so for us, that's often kind of the last working week of the year in December. And then the first week of July is often a holiday week around our community. And so we take some time and really just don't have meetings, pause most of our normal work. And we each kind of create a checklist of things that we need to do to get our systems and structures cleaned up so that, every day moving forward, we can see the benefits of that by having things that just work more efficiently for us.
I like that a lot. So what's the big benefit of this? I mean, I get the logic behind it, but what do you feel is the big benefit in general by taking the time out? Because I think most managers and business owners and so on, taking 1 or 2 weeks out here and there sounds like a lot. It sounds scary.
It does. And I'll be honest, it can feel hard to take time to pause what you're doing and clean up systems. And it's still worth doing. It pays dividends every single day moving forward when you take time to actually clean up some of the things that are slowing you down every day. So let me give some examples of some of the things that we do during Polish Week and that I do now in my business during polish week or polish days. And so these are the times we clean up our email inbox. We actually take the time to unsubscribe from all the things we realize we don't want anymore. We might update the computer software that keeps popping up saying it needs to be updated, and we just keep saying later, later, later. We actually take time to let it do its thing so that our computers are working effectively. We might go through and create browser bookmarks for all the websites and documents that we're in all the time so that we can quickly and easily get to them. And we're not like going into our Google Drive and searching for the same document every day when we could just have it right there in our browser bar. We might freshen up physical space, clean off your desk, get, things that you're not using all the time off and make that fresh. I mean, the mental benefit of having a clean space is huge, as many of us know from if you've gotten, a nice, clean, fresh space. That might even mean cleaning up a work bag, and taking out the business cards from that conference 3 years ago that you don't need anymore and finally recycling them. We might set in the recurring reminders for things that we want to do. Like I need to send a check-in agenda to someone every Thursday. So we set up our system to make sure that's happening, or we want to remember to appreciate, our colleagues every Friday. And so we put a time in our calendar. Those are some of the things we kind of can build in. You might even, we've cleaned up data, to make sure a database has up-to-date contact information for folks that we're engaging with. A small business owner might go back and make sure that you've sent all the invoices you need and, received follow up on any that are outstanding, and turning off notifications. We take the time to say, like, I actually really don't need that pizza place to be sending me push notifications on my phone. So let me go ahead and get rid of that and turn off all the notifications unless it's something that you really actually want to get notified about. So there's many ideas, and actually I can share. I have a list of a bunch of ideas that we do and other teams have done that I can share with your audience. But it looks different for everybody, but it is incredibly valuable to actually take the time, turn off all the meetings and normal work, and spend, whether it's a full week or whether it's, just a day or even an afternoon, can be really meaningful to really make sure that every day moving forward, things are just a little bit easier, a little bit quicker, a little less stressful. And, you're not wasting brain energy on doing things that you want to put towards creative energy. And instead, every day you're putting towards telling your computer that no, it cannot update its software yet again.
I'm impressed if you can get through your entire email inbox in just a week. That's impressive.
Well, I think, sometimes for people, you need to just either declare email bankruptcy and just like assume that you can just go and archive all of it and just assume that if it's important, it'll come back to you. Or you could say, one thing I've recommended for folks is just pick a date. So, it's, maybe a month ago, and say, everything from more than a month ago is unlikely to be something I am going to ever respond to or read. So let me go ahead and get that out of my inbox and just archive it. And then I have a more manageable set of things, and I can go quickly and say, delete, unsubscribe, reply. Okay, make a note to do that one. But the reality is that, if an email came in more than a month ago, you could probably just say, I'm going to go ahead and get all those out of here.
Yeah, and make a lot of sense. And that's actually one thing that I'm pretty good at is unsubscribing, because I'm not a huge fan of emails per se, but clicking the unsubscribe button is actually something I'm relatively consistent at when I get email I don't like. So
yeah, I feel like everybody has their things that they're really great about, whether it's like this person keeps a really clean desk, but their email inbox is a mess, or you're really good at unsubscribing. I also am really good at unsubscribing because I just cannot deal with too many emails. But I am, plenty bad at other things, like organizing my digital files is an example of something that I need to make space to actually say, okay. And sometimes I have to incentivize it. Like, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it for 45 minutes. And at the end, I'm going to have my favorite lunch because I need something to look forward to.
Yep, that makes sense. So for people that are leading teams, how do you recommend they implement this across the whole team? Like if you lead a team of customer service people, for example, or how do you recommend doing this?
Yeah, so in leading a team, I think the first thing that a team leader can do is actually create the real space for this to happen. So really letting your team know, I really expect that A, B, and C things that we do are not going to happen during this period of time, whether it's a day or two or a full week, because we are going to clean up our systems and, do this. So I think creating that space and actually making it, protecting it for your team, I think is really important. And then I think it can be fun. You can, even gamify it a little bit. So my team, we would actually create a spreadsheet, and down one side in the first column, we would have all the things that we need to do, so maybe each of us is going to, go through our calendar and get rid of any unnecessary recurring things that we're not doing anymore. We don't think are worthwhile anymore, and maybe we're all each going to, unsubscribe from unwanted emails. So those are the kind of rows, all the different tasks we want to do. And for my team, usually I'd make some of them required. Like it's really important that we all do this. Like we're all going to update this information for our contacts in our database, for example. That is a non-negotiable. Everybody needs to do that by the end of this time period. But then there might be some fun ones like that are optional. And I would encourage my team, for example, to take time to update their resume and remember, like, what have you accomplished that you're feeling proud of? Like, go get that added to your resume because, that builds your professional capacity over time. Or, maybe it's optional for them to clean off their desk. That can be a thing they can do or not do. And then we would have our names across the top, and we would be essentially tracking, for each of us, how many tasks have we done? How many tasks do we still have remaining to do in the spreadsheet? And then it would be counting as a team, we need to do this many things and we have this many to go. And, we had a little fun. People would be in, Slack saying like, I noticed that I am ahead of you and have done more of my tasks. And I noticed that, I'm going to be done really soon. And so I think there's a little bit of, can hold it, but it's both accountability and also a little bit of fun and competition. Like we're all in this together and we're going to do some of these things because some of them are interesting or fun for some people. Like some people actually really love cleaning off their desk. That's like a fun thing for them to do. Other people, like the idea of updating a database is like nails on a chalkboard. And I understand, I feel that way too. So some of these things, the reason that we have to make space for them is because they're not that fun to do, but they're very valuable to make our teams more productive. So one of the ways you can do that is to just build the fun and gamification in so that the team can enjoy it and kind of be all in it together.
I love that a lot. And yeah, particularly the aspect that some people enjoy some of the tasks that others find less fun is definitely, that's definitely the case every time. I'm luckily one of the people who live on a very clean desk. But I think fundamentally, it sounds like a great sort of project to engage in. And I do remember about 6 months ago, I restarted my computer and that took a very long time. So,
right. Yeah, Polish Week is a good time to restart that computer if it hasn't been, and close up those tabs and just know that it'll be okay for folks who don't close them up. So yeah, and it can even, you could even, if you have a remote team or an in-person team, you could even do some of it together, having a afternoon work block where everybody's going to log on and say, okay, during this hour, I'm going to do, X, and somebody else is like, I'm going to do Y, and somebody else does Z. And maybe there's just like a little music in the background and everybody's on Zoom, but everybody's doing their own thing. That can be a fun thing to do virtually to kind of keep folks connected. And a little bit of accountability and celebration, at the end of the hour, like, hey, I got done with these 2 things that I was not excited about, and I'm really excited. Now I'm going to go for a walk. So that can be fun too.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds cool. Love the concept. Any other amazing systems that you are a big fan of or find very useful as a manager?
Yeah, I think I think using different types of reminders can be really helpful for managers. So I like to use the iPhone reminders app. And I just, hold down the button on my phone and might say, remind me every, February 13th that it is, Jamal's year of service, and then my phone will remind me every year on February 13th that it's Jamal's year of service until I delete that reminder. And that might remind me like, oh, hey, look, Jamal started a year ago today. Let me give an appreciation to him, celebrate that with the team, send a movie gift card to say, it's been great to work with you this year. Or, reminding yourself to do any sort of management thing that you want to get better at. Maybe you want to do a better job preparing before check-ins with your team and really preparing, okay, what is it that I want to dive into with this person, and where do I want to probe on what they're working on? What questions do I need to ask? Because, coming into those meetings prepared can get a much more juicy, meaty conversation going than setting up reminders or a calendar block, before those check-ins to actually do that work can be really valuable. Another fun system that I have is I keep a document with just notes about everybody on my team. And I will put things in there like what they drink at Starbucks and, their middle name. And if they say, because of a team, a fun team question, like as a child, they loved Superman, I might write that down, or their favorite cereal is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And, then when, I want to celebrate them because they just did something great. Like, why don't I send them an extra large box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch and be like, hey, great job on that, or, hey, I know that you're, you used to have this nickname. So, let me get a hat printed for you on your birthday with like that nickname on it. Cause I know you love hats and you used to have this nickname when you were living in Brazil, so there's also like having that place to put notes about folks helps me have a place to go look when there's something I want to do to support a team member or celebrate a team member. And I can remember all the things that I wanted to know about them. So I think that's another great system to have as well.
Yep, that sounds fantastic. So I'm a big fan of that, and I haven't actually used it a lot. But one thing I know is I'm horrible at remembering dates and birth dates and stuff, and that makes a lot of sense for that reason. So yeah, I like that, particularly sort of the day of service or the yearly day of service and so on makes sense. And you can actually, again, build a relatively easy system. Whenever you hire someone, you just put it in, and that makes it a very simple recurring reminder. So I like that. Yeah. I like that. Not something I've done that much in the past. So I typically have a document like yourself. So I do a one-to-one with every person every week. And I basically keep a document where in the top, I keep all this personal information. So, name of their pets and their kids and their partner, right, and birth dates and stuff. So I often keep all that in the top of the document, and I just always push the notes down every week. But I always have like the personal stuff on top, because that, again, the same thing, right? Like it just helps you remember some of those key things that's important to those people.
Yeah. And as your team grows, as I've passed off direct reports to other managers or, moved on to a different role and needed to pass off that, it's an incredible gift to be able to give to the next manager to say, by the way, here's, 5 or 7 things that I can share with you about this person. And, to help you get started as a manager for them. I think that's really helpful too. And I think setting up, as somebody joins your team, having the checklist of things to do to onboard them, all the logistical things, but also I try to remember, get their birthday on my calendar, get their start date on my calendar as an annual recurring event. Those types of things allow me to make sure that these systems get built in for each person.
Excellent. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, let's change gears a little bit. So
okay,
I love talking about silly things we've done. So what's the least good thing you have done as a manager, or what's the biggest mistake you have done as a manager in your career so far?
Gosh, That's like an interview question. Am I applying for a job?
Nope. Well, I don't think so.
Oh man. That is a great question. Ooh, I honestly think that probably the thing I've done the least well is just giving really quality, constructive feedback to my highest performers. It is, some people are just incredible at giving great feedback. I'd had the benefit of working on teams with those folks before, and I'm not one of them. Giving great feedback is something I'm really good at. Giving appreciation, but giving like really good constructive feedback is not a strength of mine. So it's something I have to put energy into in order to be good at. And I struggle the most when someone is just doing a great job, even though if I do put the time in, I can always think of ways that they can take their game to the next level. But it's something I struggle with. I feel like I've had people tell me like, I don't think you've given me any constructive feedback in like 6 months. And I'm like, oh, that's my job. I'm really sorry I haven't done that. You're doing a great job though, which is really not what they're looking for. So that's something I'm not great at.
Yeah. One thing, I always try and mix it up. So I think that the biggest issue most people have is they give most feedback that's constructive and not very much on positive side, right? So my philosophy is very clear. I always make sure I give most positive feedback, because if most of what people do for you isn't positive, they shouldn't be working with you. And the problem is, if they hear from you 5 times a month and every 5 times it's something they're doing wrong, that's not a great scenario, right? However, that's a very simple way to give feedback that I love using a lot. And it's basically just looking, like the key thing about feedback, to make it very constructive and very useful, is to make it very, very specific, very behavior driven, right? Mm-hmm. So for example, if I see you in a meeting keep interrupting someone, I say, hey Jessica, can I give you some feedback? When you keep interrupting Peter, it sounds to everyone else like you don't really want to hear what you have to say, right? So the whole thing about feedback is it can be super, super quick and usually 10-15 seconds. But the key thing is actually noticing specific behaviors, right? Mm-hmm. And I always, like pretty much every time I finish a team meeting or something like that, I always have things, like I write down like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 notes, and I'll go back to people right after the team meeting and say, hey, when you do this thing, keep doing that because that was great. Or when you do this thing, here's how people might see you. And I'm sharing my observations. It's not necessarily, maybe I'm totally wrong occasionally, but it's just a quick piece of feedback. And the whole point is I'm not looking to argue or discuss if it's right or wrong. I'm just simply giving them an observation, what I feel it looks like, and making them aware. And it's important both when you give positive feedback and negative feedback to make it very behavior specific. Because here's the thing, most people that are really good don't necessarily know why. And the thing is, when you just tell them in the end of the day and just say, hey, good job today, they're like, okay, great, but what was good, right? Right. So actually learning to just look at the behavior specifically and point out the specific behavior. And, sometimes it can be simple things like, when you're consistently using a person's name, makes them feel great. Or when you're consistently asking people how are they doing before you jump into work stuff, that makes them feel like you actually care about them. Or it can be many, many smaller things, but it's just about noticing those specific behaviors. And every time you cringe a little bit and you're like, ooh, I wish he or she didn't say that, or I wish they didn't say it that way, that is always a perfect opportunity to give some feedback.
Yeah, I love the idea of being in group spaces and team meetings and just taking notes on like the great moments. And that would really help me. I love that idea. And you made me think of another, a tip that I've gotten, which is also a mistake I've made, but I love this, which is, somebody once told me, if you could wave a magic wand and employee X would walk into your office tomorrow and say, hey, I've got my dream job and I'm leaving in 2 weeks, and you would actually be happy about that, then you need to actually do the hard work of letting them go. Like if you kind of wish somebody was going to their dream job and leaving your organization, then you probably need to be letting them go and finding somebody that's actually a better fit. That you really need to only have people on your team for whom, if they walked in, you would be devastated to hear that news. So it's been a good mental check for me before when I'm having folks that are on my team that are not doing as well as I hope, to ask the question, like, if they could go get their dream job, would I want them to, or would I want them to stay on my team? And if the answer is, I'd rather them go somewhere else, then usually that means I need to do some hard work to let them know that they're not doing a good enough job, and maybe we need to make a different approach.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I would say one of the things that took me a little while to embrace as a manager is when you have some of your best people leave. Having someone tell you, hey, I'm resigning, I'm leaving in 4 weeks, and actually sitting across from a superstar employee, and inside your world is kind of breaking and exploding, but on the outside, again, you want to appreciate them for all their hard work and you want to be happy on their behalf. So I would say learning to do that definitely also taken me a little while, but I feel I've gotten fairly good at it, right? Where, it's not a great situation, but I feel that if people have done a great job for you and they've been a critical part of your business, you really owe it to them to be happy for their success, and really owe it to them to be happy for what they have contributed, not for the fact that people always feel like, oh, he or she's leaving me, but it's not they're leaving you, they just have a bigger, better opportunity, and if you had been in their shoes, you'd probably done the same type of thing. But it's learning not to take that personal and really trying to be happy on their behalf, right? Because fundamentally, when great people are leaving you for even better opportunities, that's usually a sign that you're actually a great manager and you're developing and growing your staff and you're doing things right. So learning to take it as a compliment, though, can definitely take a little bit of work, but yeah.
Right. And then as we were to connect it back to making the systems, what systems can you put in place to stay in touch with those folks if they were a superstar on your team, so that, maybe in the future they can help you recruit for that next role that you're going to be hiring for, because they can tell people with authority, it's really great to work with Jessica. You should go try to be on her team, if they really enjoyed their work with you, or maybe you can get them to come back as an alum, when you've got a role that is good for wherever they are in their career. I totally agree. It's hard to be happy for folks in those moments, but it's critical. And if you can build your reputation as, a manager to work for, it can be a really great thing for your own personal career and personal brand to be able to say, the folks that have joined my team, this is some of the things they're doing now in their career, because it's a way to convince new talented folks to want to come work with you, because they see that you are the kind of leader that helps develop people and set them on a career path that they want to be on.
It's also just also the signal you send to the rest of the team, right? It's right. I've been there myself. I've seen it so many times where managers like, oh yeah, this person's an asshole. They're leaving us in the middle of a big important project, or that kind of thing, and that makes everyone else be like, oh well, if I'm ever leaving, I will definitely give you the minimum notice. I will definitely, it makes other people afraid of sharing great news, and that's not really what you're looking for as a manager. So yeah,
that's right. Yeah, as a manager, we want to create that safe space so that if folks are starting to look, they feel comfortable letting us know, because then we can plan so much better. Because, it would be so much better to have, 3 or 6 months of notice that somebody's starting to think about, moving on for whatever reason. Maybe they are moving geographically for something going on in their family. There's plenty of reasons why people leave, but having that notice is an incredible gift that people can give, but they don't owe it to us. So we have to earn it by showing them how we handle that kind of the news that someone's transitioning. So, yeah.
And more importantly, how good relationships we have with them, right? So, It's actually, when I work corporately, it was one of my core metrics for my managers is basically, if you don't know until the last possible day of resignation that someone is leaving, you probably haven't got a strong enough relationship with them.
Right.
Now, obviously, there can be exceptions, but in most cases, if you have a good relationship with your staff, everything else being equal, they will start telling you either when they're thinking about leaving or when they're quite sure they will be leaving, but just haven't picked the date yet. And
Right.
as you say, you want to know, because the problem is, I mean, some companies it's less than 4 weeks, but even if you have 4 weeks or a month to actually plan for a new employee, like recruiting a new person, getting them in, getting them trained, in most cases takes significantly longer than a month, right?
Yes, much longer. And it always takes much longer than we even think, even when we plan it out and say, oh, we won't have anybody new for 2 months, like probably 4. It just takes so much time, because not only do you have a vacancy and somebody's got to cover that slack, you now have a new project, which is hiring another person. So it's a double whammy when someone transitions. So yeah, the longer you've got, the better you can plan, because in the best case scenario, that superstar gets to train their replacement. And that doesn't happen if they're letting you know at the last minute. So I totally agree.
Definitely. Jessica, that's been a super fun conversation.
Thank you.
If people are eager to get hold of you and talk to you and connect with you, what's the best ways of doing so?
Okay. So first is, if anybody's interested in the Polish Week idea, I made a free personalizable checklist. It's a Google Doc that you can just make a copy of to get started. That is at bit.ly/Polish Week. So if anybody wants that free resource out there in the world to go grab. And then to connect with me, I'm most active with my tips for, leadership, management, life management at Instagram. You can find me there at Joyfully Managed Family. I also have a weekly email with 5 quick tips for anyone managing life. And anybody can sign up for those at www.jessicaeastmanstewart.com. And I'd love to connect with anybody. And if anybody wants to just chat about management, late into the evening over drinks, I am always game for that.
Awesome, Jessica. Well, thank you very, very much for joining me. That was a super fun conversation.
Likewise. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.
Thank you. And to the audience, thank you very much for sticking with us all the way to the end. We'll be back again next week.
Thank you for listening to the Mad Singers Management Podcast. Please leave a review. It means the world to us. You can also learn more about management at madsingers.com.